Henry was 65 years old, and if you saw him at the local community gym, you would have been impressed. He had more muscle than men half his age. He took his blood pressure medication religiously, he watched his diet, and he prided himself on staying strong. He believed that as long as he kept pushing his physical limits, he was winning the battle against aging. He felt invincible. But on a Thursday afternoon, while performing a routine he had done 1,000 times before, Henry made one invisible mistake. It wasn't that he dropped the weights. It wasn't that he tripped or lost his balance. Internally, his body experienced a catastrophic surge in pressure that his arteries simply weren't built to handle. One second he was straining to reach a personal best, and the next he was experiencing a thunderclap headache that signaled a life-altering cardiovascular event. When Henry arrived in my unit, he was confused and terrified. He kept asking me, "But doc, I was exercising, I was being healthy. How can my gym routine be the reason my heart is failing?" I'm Dr. Jason Watanabe. I've spent my life as a cardiac surgeon, performing over 800 procedures. I've seen the inside of hearts that were damaged by sedentary lifestyles. But some of the most tragic cases I see involve men and women like Henry, active people who are trying to do the right thing, but are accidentally using a technique that acts like a pressure cooker for their brain and heart. There is one specific exercise habit, something millions of seniors do every day, that is secretly the most dangerous thing you can do if you have high blood pressure. It is a movement and a method that is often encouraged by fitness gurus, but as a surgeon, I am asking you to stop it immediately. In this video, I'm going to reveal what this specific healthy trap is, why your body's internal pressure valves fail when you do it, and the 3 safe alternatives that will keep you strong without putting your life at risk. Most importantly, I'm going to explain a mechanical error most people make during their workouts that can spike your blood pressure to 250 in less than 3 seconds. Henry thought he was building a stronger body. In reality, he was unknowingly performing a maneuver that was tearing his system apart from the inside. Let's make sure you aren't making the same mistake during your workout tomorrow morning. To understand exactly what happened to Henry, we need to look at the heart not just as a pump, but as a pressure regulator. When you are in your 20s, your arterial walls are like high-quality elastic bands. They can stretch and snap back to accommodate a sudden surge of blood without any damage. But as we cross the age of 60, those walls undergo a structural change called arterial stiffening. They become less like a flexible rubber hose and more like a lead pipe. They don't stretch, they resist. Henry was performing a classic strength-building exercise that almost every health guru recommends for bone density. He was told that heavy resistance was the only way to stay young. And while resistance training is vital for longevity, the specific technique Henry was using was fundamentally flawed. He was using a natural instinct that almost every amateur athlete relies on when a weight feels too heavy to lift. It is a primitive response, but for a 65-year-old with managed hypertension, it is the equivalent of capping a volcano while it's erupting. When you strain against a heavy load, your body undergoes a massive sympathetic nervous system surge. Your heart rate climbs, and your vessels constrict to push blood to your working muscles. But there is a specific mechanical error, a way of managing your core and your lungs that triggers a catastrophic internal pressure spike. During Henry's last set, his internal blood pressure didn't just go up a few points, it skyrocketed in a matter of milliseconds. In a landmark study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology, researchers found that this specific mistake can cause blood pressure to surge to levels rarely seen even in emergency rooms, sometimes hitting 300 or 400 millimeters of mercury. To put that in perspective, a dangerously high reading in a clinic is 180. For a young athlete, this momentary spike might be handled by their resilient vessels. For someone with Henry's history, it is a physical assault on the delicate microscopic vessels of the brain and the aortic wall. This is the great deception of modern fitness for seniors. We are told to push through the pain and give it everything we've got. But your heart has a structural limit. When you cross that limit using this specific, dangerous maneuver, you aren't building muscle. you are risking a structural failure. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal exactly what Henry was doing with his breath and why it is the #1 thing I tell my senior patients to stop doing immediately. The mechanical error Henry made is something so instinctive that you probably did it this morning without even realizing it. Perhaps you were trying to open a stubborn jar of pickles, or maybe you were lifting a heavy bag of malt in the garden. When we face a physical challenge that feels just a bit too heavy, our brain sends a command to our torso: lock everything down. We take a deep breath, we close our throat, and we push from the inside out to create a rigid pillar of support in our spine. In the medical world, we call this the Valsalva Maneuver. It is a natural reflex designed to protect your back, but for a senior with high blood pressure, it is a catastrophic trade-off. By trying to protect your spine, you are unknowingly suffocating your heart. Think of your chest as a pressurized cabin. When you hold your breath and strain, that grunting phase of a heavy lift, you are dramatically increasing the pressure inside your thoracic cavity. This pressure is so intense that it actually collapses the very veins that are supposed to bring blood back to your heart. For a few seconds, the return of blood to your heart drops to almost nothing. But then, the hammer strikes. The moment you finish the lift and finally let that breath out, all the blood that was backed up in your system rushes back to your heart at once. This creates a massive, sudden surge in cardiac output. Because your arteries are already stiffened by age and high blood pressure, they can't give to accommodate this tidal wave of blood. The pressure spikes instantly. In my operating room, I have seen the aftermath of this hammer effect. It can lead to a literal tear in the lining of the aorta, the body's main artery. We call this an aortic dissection, and it is one of the most lethal emergencies in all of medicine. Henry wasn't doing anything wrong by the standards of a 20-year-old bodybuilder. But Henry wasn't 20. He was 65. He was using a brute force breathing technique on a system that needed precision and flow. He was turning a simple bicep curl or a leg press into a high-stakes gamble with his brain's blood vessels. In a moment, I am going to show you how to identify if you are accidentally performing this internal squeeze during your daily activities. But first, we need to address the second part of the strength trap, the specific type of exercise that seniors are told is safe, but is actually the #1 trigger for this dangerous pressure spike. Many seniors are told that machines are safer than free weights because they control the movement for you. Henry believed this. He avoided the heavy iron plates on the floor and instead spent his time on the leg press and the overhead shoulder press machines. He thought the seated position and the guided rails were protecting him. But as a cardiac surgeon, I can tell you that these two machines, in particular, are where the most dangerous pressure spikes occur. Let's look at the overhead press. When you push a heavy weight above your head, your heart has to fight an immediate battle against gravity to get blood up to your brain. This is already a challenge for an aging heart. But when you combine that vertical lift with the Valsalva maneuver, holding your breath to finish the rep, you are creating a dual pressure crisis. The internal pressure in your chest is pushing out, while the physical weight is pushing down. This creates what we call an afterload spike. Your heart is trying to squeeze blood out into your body, but it's hitting a wall of resistance that is so high it begins to backflow. Imagine trying to blow air into a balloon that is already overinflated. Eventually, the pressure has nowhere to go but back toward the pump. For a 65-year-old heart, this back pressure can cause the left ventricle to physically stretch and weaken over time, or worse, it can cause a sudden rupture in a weakened blood vessel. Then there is the leg press. This is perhaps the most deceptive machine in the gym. Because you are sitting down and pushing with your legs, you feel powerful. You feel like you can handle hundreds of pounds. But because of the way your body is folded at the waist on that machine, your abdominal cavity is compressed. When you take a deep breath and push, you are essentially creating a human hydraulic press. You are squeezing your internal organs and your major blood vessels between your thighs and your chest. During his very last set on the leg press, Henry felt a pop in his head. He didn't realize it at the time, but the pressure in his carotid arteries had reached a level usually only seen in high-speed car accidents. He was trying to build leg strength, but he was actually performing a stress test that his brain wasn't prepared to pass. This is the strength trap. We prioritize the muscle we can see in the mirror over the muscles pass. When Henry was struggling on that leg press, he thought that by holding his breath, he was giving himself more power. In reality, he was capping a volcano. As a surgeon, I've had to repair the structural damage that occurs when that internal pressure finally finds a weak point. I don't want you to stop being active, but I want you to change the fundamental way you handle effort. To stay safe, you must follow what I call the Watanabe Breathing Rule. Never close the valve. In my operating room, we use sophisticated monitors to track intrathoracic pressure. We know that the moment a patient's airway is restricted while their body is under stress, the cardiovascular system begins to undergo extreme strain. The same thing happens in your living room or at the gym. The secret to lifting weights safely after 60 isn't just about the weight itself. It's about ensuring that the exhaust pipe is always open. The rule is simple. You must exhale during the hardest part of the movement. If you are pushing a heavy grocery bag onto a high shelf, you should be blowing air out of your mouth the entire time you are lifting. If you are standing up from a low chair, you should be exhaling as you rise. By keeping your throat open and air moving out, you prevent that hydraulic pressure from building up in your chest. You are uncapping the volcano. Scientific studies have compared these two methods. When an individual performs a heavy lift while holding their breath, the Valsalva Maneuver, their systolic blood pressure can easily hit 300 millimeters of mercury. But when that same person performs the exact same lift while exhaling forcefully through pursed lips, that pressure spike is often cut in half, staying in a much safer range of 160 or 170. For your arteries, that difference is the gap between a safe workout and a ruptured vessel. Think of your breath as a safety valve on a pressure cooker. If that valve is stuck shut, the pressure will eventually find a way out, usually by breaking the weakest seal. In your body, the seals are the tiny capillaries in your brain and the delicate valves of your heart. When you exhale during effort, you are letting the steam out of the system. You are allowing your heart to pump against a manageable resistance rather than a brick wall. But breathing is only half the battle. We also need to talk about the intensity trap. Many of you have been told that if you aren't feeling the burn or straining until your face turns red, you aren't making progress. That is perhaps the most dangerous lie in senior fitness. In a moment, I'm going to show you how to use the talk test to ensure your heart is always in the safe zone. Henry was a warrior. He grew up in an era where no pain, no gain was the only rule. He thought that if his face wasn't turning red and the veins in his neck weren't popping out, he wasn't working hard enough. But as a cardiac surgeon, when I see a senior with a purple, straining face in the gym, I don't see strength. I see a circulatory logjam that is seconds away from a catastrophe. That redness you see in the mirror during a heavy lift isn't a sign of good circulation. It is actually a sign of venous congestion. It means the pressure in your chest is so high that the blood in your head and neck cannot get back down to your heart. It is literally backed up in your brain. For someone with high blood pressure, this is the most dangerous state your body can be in. You are essentially pressure washing the inside of your cerebral arteries. This is the intensity trap. We've been conditioned to believe that we must push until we fail. But for the heart of a 60-year-old, the goal should never be failure. It should be stimulation. To ensure you are stimulating your muscles without assaulting your heart, I want you to use the talk test. The rule is simple. If you are performing an exercise and you cannot speak a full, calm sentence without gasping or straining, you have crossed the line into the danger zone. If you have to grunt to finish a movement, the weight is too heavy for your cardiovascular system, even if your muscles can handle it. Your heart is the limiting factor, not your biceps. I told Henry that he didn't need to lift the heaviest weights in the gym to stay strong. In fact, research published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine shows that for seniors, high-volume, low-load training, meaning lighter weights with more repetitions, is just as effective for building muscle and bone density as heavy, straining lifts. But the difference for your blood pressure is night and day. By lifting a weight you can handle for 15 or 20 reps while breathing continuously, you keep your blood pressure in a gentle wave instead of a deadly spike. Henry realized that his warrior mentality was actually his greatest weakness. He was trying to prove something to himself, but his heart was paying the price for his pride. In a moment, I am going to reveal the 3 specific, safe exercises that I recommend to all my post-surgery patients. Movements that will keep you independent and strong without ever triggering the thermal hammer effect. Henry walked into my follow-up clinic 6 months after his event. He looked different. He wasn't the gym warrior he used to be, but he looked healthier. His blood pressure was stable at 125/80, and he told me something I'll never forget. "Doc, I feel stronger now than when I was lifting the heavy iron, because now I'm not fighting my own body." I had transitioned Henry from the heavy machines to what I call the safe strength protocol. These are the 3 exercises I recommend to my patients who have already experienced heart failure or surgery, but they are even more effective as a preventative tool for you. The first alternative is resistance band training. Unlike heavy iron or machines that have a fixed heavy weight at the start, resistance bands provide progressive tension. This means the resistance is lightest when your joints are in their weakest position and gets harder as you stretch the band. This prevents that initial jolt of effort that usually triggers the Valsalva Maneuver. Because the band is forgiving, it naturally encourages you to keep your air moving. You can build incredible muscle tone and bone density without ever hitting that dangerous internal pressure spike. The second exercise is the assisted sit-to-stand. For a senior, this is the most important functional strength you can have. It keeps you independent and out of a wheelchair. But instead of doing it with a heavy barbell on your back, you use your own body weight and a sturdy chair. The secret is the Watanabe Breathing Rule applied to the movement. As you sit down, you inhale. As you push yourself up to a standing position, you exhale forcefully through your mouth, making a whoosh sound. This ensures that even though your legs are working hard, your heart is never working against a closed valve. The third exercise is the wall push-up. Standard floor push-ups are often too intense for people over 60, as they put the heart in a position where it has to fight both gravity and the weight of the entire body. By standing a few feet away from a wall and performing the movement at an angle, you control the load. You can get a great chest and arm workout while keeping your head and heart at a much safer, more level position. Henry started doing these 3 things every other day. He stopped trying to fail and started trying to flow. He focused on the rhythm of his breath more than the numbers on a plate. By doing this, he was building what I call vascular resilience. He was training his arteries to remain flexible and his heart to stay calm under pressure. In our final part, I'm going to summarize the ultimate safety checklist for your next workout, and I'll reveal the one thing you should do immediately if you ever feel that head pop sensation Henry experienced. Henry survived that afternoon in the gym, but he walked away with a profound lesson that I want you to learn without ever having to visit an ICU. He realized that at 65, his strength wasn't measured by how much weight he could move, but by how well he protected the delicate system that keeps him alive. Today, Henry is still active, but he is a breathing athlete. He understands that his lungs and his heart are the true captains of his body. I want to give you the Watanabe safety checklist to take with you to your next workout. These are the 3 rules that will keep you out of my operating room. First, uncap the pressure. Every time you push, pull, or lift, you must hear the sound of your own breath leaving your body. If you are silent and straining, you are in the danger zone. Exhale on the effort, every single time. Second, the talk test. If you cannot speak a full, calm sentence during your set, the weight is too heavy. It doesn't matter if your muscles feel fine. Your heart is telling you that the pressure is too high. Listen to your heart, not your ego. Third, stimulate, don't annihilate. Focus on 15 to 20 controlled, smooth repetitions. If you are grunting to finish a rep, you are risking a structural failure for the sake of a vanity metric. Your arteries thrive on steady, rhythmic flow, not sudden, violent spikes. Finally, a surgeon's warning. If you are ever exercising and you feel a sudden thunderclap headache, a pop in your head, or a strange heaviness in your neck, stop immediately. Do not try to walk it off. Do not drive yourself home. This could be a sign of a hypertensive crisis or a vascular tear. Sit down, stay calm, and seek medical attention. Your body is a masterpiece of biology, but it is not indestructible. It is a system that deserves your respect and your protection. By making these small shifts in how you move and breathe, you aren't just getting fit. You are ensuring that your heart stays strong and your arteries stay flexible for the next 20 or 30 years. I want to hear from you now. Our community is global, and the health of our hearts is a shared mission. Where on this planet are you listening to me from right now? Let me know in the comments below, and I want us to learn from each other's journeys. Do you know someone, a friend, a family member, or even a gym partner, who has suffered a health scare while exercising? Comment who they were and tell us what happened. Your story might be the exact warning another viewer needs to hear to change their habits today. If this video opened your eyes to the hidden dangers in your workout, please hit the like button and share it with someone you care about. I'm Dr. Jason Watanabe. Breathe deep, move with intention, and take care of your heart.